there's pros and cons to it. Personally, I would love it if we can just play all the teams. That's all I've ever wanted from the SEC scheduling is let us play all the teams more frequently.
We're going to take one of the things that is kind of all-encompassing. So it's going to be about Auburn football, but more so about SEC football and some of the conversations that have been happening the past week. And if you ask Kirby Smart, we're talking about it too much. Of course, Kirby can say what he wants these days, I guess, when you win 2 national titles in a row. Pains me to say that, but it's the reality in the world. It's the world we live in, folks. SEC meetings happen down in Pensacola, I believe is what it was, but down at the beach somewhere, as they tend to do as soon as spring semester starts to wrap up. I kind of think of it as the precursor to the SEC media days, kind of getting those things warmed up.
Yep.
But the big thing was trying to get around this topic of what is going to be the SEC football schedule when Oklahoma and Texas arrive. Originally, that was slated to be 2025. It has now moved up to 2024. So, folks, if you like the way things are done, enjoy this season because it will start not so much major changes next year. But this season is the last of what you currently know as the SEC divisions and things like that. Starting in 2024, Texas and Oklahoma in the mix. We will still play 8 SEC games. You will have some, is what I interpret out of that, not all, but traditional rivalries protected within a rotating random draw of who you will be playing in those 8 SEC games. So no more of every single year, Arkansas, Ole Miss, Texas A&M, Mississippi State, LSU, Alabama, and Georgia, those guarantees. It'll be a little bit different. We think Alabama we know Alabama, that the Iron Bowl will be preserved, but maybe some others are at risk here. Your initial thoughts, sir? What do you think about this breaking news out of the SEC meetings?
Yeah, a lot of people are upset about why is the SEC not going in 9 games? All the other conferences are going to 9 games.
Because we don't need to. It just means more.
I wanted to go to 9 games just because I think the way I want to preserve some of the scheduling a little better. I think that's how the best do it.
Yeah.
However, as you said, and as Commissioner Greg Sankey said, last I checked, his quote, not mine. Last I checked, the national championship game was 65-7. I think the SEC's doing okay without going to 9 conference games.
Right.
And everybody's saying, well, you don't need to play New Mexico Girls College on the second to last weekend of the year. Well, we are, and we can. So, I understand both sides.
I don't know that that's actually on the schedule, but I'll go check.
No, yeah, probably not. I understand both sides of it and maybe why people want to play more games, why people don't. But at the end of the day, that's what they've chosen not to do for now. It is temporarily, the 2024 season will still be 8 games. And I think that's probably what they did for that reason, is just a stopgap of we can't hash all this out right now. Right. Let's give ourselves another year. Texas and Oklahoma, I'm assuming we're not at these meetings. That wouldn't make any sense to me. And so let's get them in here and kind of all talk about this together. But 8, I'm still okay with 8 games. It sounds like it's still a requirement. You play a Power 5 team. I'm happy with out-of-conference Power 5 team. I'm happy with that. I hope that stays. I like a lot of the ones Auburn has coming up, first and foremost.
Yes. Yeah.
Baylor and Miami and Wisconsin, I think.
Is Wisconsin on the list? I know UCLA is, but
UCLA, maybe. I think you and I have just talked about Wisconsin.
I would like a Wisconsin matchup.
I'm not sure that's been on the list, but I like a lot of the ones Auburn has, so I hope those stay. And I just like that, we've talked about how much we love the Penn State thing, and I think that's been good for college football.
Yep.
So I'm okay with 8 conference games for now, and I think that's wise to just figure out it as we get going. I do think it's very interesting, and it seems like the rest of the conferences are kind of going this way of no divisions. Just take the top 2 teams. Part of me doesn't like that. I think I'm really used to the East-West thing. Texas and Oklahoma joining the league doesn't bother. It doesn't change my perception of the SEC so much because, I mean, it's been over 10 years, but A&M and Missouri joined, and I feel like that was the first step of getting used to realignment for me. The divisions thing is going to be weird, like to not have an East-West. I don't think I'll ever not think of Arkansas as a West team or, you know, Florida as an East team. That'd be really hard to get out of my line of thinking. But all in all, I don't think a whole lot of information came out of these SEC meetings that we all weren't really shocked about, besides just deciding, okay, we're going to delay this basically a year.
Well, and I wouldn't even say it's a delay. Oh, let me just say this. Does the SEC do everything right? No. Does the SEC officiating do everything right? Heck no. Does every decision they make, I agree with? No. But what I have liked, and I'm going to bring up a not so fun topic, but like COVID. Greg Sankey and the staff there made a very wise choice to not overreact, and were criticized for that, to not shut things down. And said, let's kind of bide our time and make what we can work for now and see what happens in X amount of days, weeks, months, whatever. And that ended up being the smart decision. And everybody else had to adjust the SEC because we were playing ball. Nobody else was ready to, basically. Same thing could be said here. While it is kind of frustrating to be like, that's what you came up with? We're just going to still play 8 games, nothing else? At the same time, I kind of appreciate that. This is about to change the landscape of the SEC even more than Missouri and Texas A&M did.
Way bigger,
way bigger implicate. And no offense to Texas A&M and Missouri, glad to have you. Still understand why Missouri's here, but hey, we'll take you. What's one more Tiger, right? You know, at this point. But this is going to have so many ramifications. On top of that, Sankey is looking out there and seeing what's happening with supposed changes and further additions probably going to be made by the Big Ten in terms of becoming an bi-coastal. I don't know if that's the word, or intercoastal. What's the word? All of those things, having from sea to shining sea teams everywhere. They may have to make more adjustments on top of that. So why would you rush into something when there's no settled changes yet? So to me, I thought this was I would have liked to have had more to it, but I understand why this is an interim decision for the time being. Now, to bring it to Auburn and how it affects us with this SEC scheduling, staying at 8 games, preserving the traditional rivalries. Now, that's the key. That's the key phrase here. We all know the Iron Bowl's safe. It's the greatest rivalry in college sports. It's the greatest rivalry in sports. I will make that argument, and I probably will have a few other people disagree with that, but I'll say it here on an Auburn show. The Georgia rivalry, the LSU rivalry may be in jeopardy in terms of an annual matchup. Your thoughts on that, if that becomes a reality?
Yeah, I mentioned I like 9 games more because of the scheduling. Yeah. I think the 3 permanent and the 6 rotating, so you get all the teams, makes the most sense to me, just because I want to see all the teams. I want to see all the stadiums. I think a kid in the conference playing football should get to go to and have a team come to him during his collegiate career. That just doesn't make sense to me how we got away from that, and we're playing Florida every 15 years in the swamp. So I think that is what makes sense to me for that. However, it sounds like the best thing for 8, or not the best thing, the way they want to pitch it for 8 is you keep 1 and the other 7 rotate, and that's how you get everybody in. I still like that you get everybody, but there's some big time rivalries, quote unquote, or historic games that are matchups that we will not get every year. Auburn, Georgia is the Deep South's oldest rivalry. To not play that game every year, I know some people are like, oh, that's fine, I'll let Georgia go for a year, every other year. That's an automatic L. Okay, this is way bigger than what is currently happening at Georgia. To let that game go doesn't make any sense to me. So I hope that's not the case. I'll even go as far to say that with Alabama, Tennessee as well. That's a very historic rivalry that a lot of people feel strongly about. It's
a rivalry again now that they've won one?
Yeah. Yeah. Where were you the last time Alabama beat Tennessee?
I can't remember.
I can't either. 2 years ago, I don't have a clue. The other ones that it hurts me to think about Auburn and LSU not playing. Like that's crazy. But then you think about when Auburn and LSU might not play, Auburn gets to play Florida again.
Yeah.
Remember those from those come back. So those are all kind of interwoven for me, outside of Alabama and Georgia. But there's pros and cons to it, and the biggest thing is that not everybody is going to be happy. It doesn't matter what they decide.
Right.
Vanderbilt is going to get absolutely pummeled. It's just going to happen. They're going to have to play Alabama every other year. They're going to have to play Georgia every other year. Everybody's going to be starting to pitch their forks in. Our traditional rivalry is with Vanderbilt. And and I don't know I guess Tennessee is going to get that. I don't know how that's going to work, but so I don't know. There's pros and cons to it. Personally, I would love it if we can just play all the teams. That's all I've ever wanted from the SEC scheduling is let us play all the teams more frequently.
Yes. And it sounds like that's where we're heading.
Yeah.
So if we could what I hear you saying, and I agree with you too, is that, yes, Alabama's safe. Auburn and Iron Bowl is safe. Georgia, to me, I wonder, would there have been a different situation had there not been the Florida and Georgia rivalry, the Auburn and Georgia rivalry?
Yeah.
There's a couple of teams, and we'll throw Alabama, Tennessee. There's a couple of marquee teams with double rivalries that kind of throw a wrench in this. And so I think that's probably why you saw the hesitation there. If we have to give up LSU, I won't say I'm fine with it, but if it gets me Florida more frequently, good. If it gets me Tennessee more frequently, good.
Yeah,
I will
that's
take
another
that.
good one. Yeah, and it's not even really giving up, right? It's just you have an off year. And I think that's what people are kind of confused by is like, oh, we're not going to play LSU. No, you will. It'll just be in the even years or in the odd years. And then the other years you get Tennessee, like you said, or Florida, or someone you don't normally get to play, which I think would take some getting used to. But to me, it's not that big a deal. Like LSU and Florida, those are both Auburn rivals, B rivals, just because, we don't have as much of a want to beat them as Alabama or Georgia. But so I don't see it as that big of a deal of losing the LSU rivalry.
Yeah. Hey, and we got the streak broken in Baton Rouge from a former head coach. So, look, if we want to end on that, I'm good. Let's just
that's right.
We just want to suddenly end it there. Well, I guess technically we've got to go there this year and maintain that, make it a streak. But either way, you get my point. SEC scheduling, it's not finalized. This is just a placeholder until we get to 2025. But at least we know where we're heading for the immediacy, and with the addition of Texas and Oklahoma and who knows what else.